All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was a clear stall for time due to the fact that Coffee Cam was malfunctioning, inoperable. We'll have to fix that. I was trying to figure out why, for instance, the camera, whenever I would switch to that, would start causing the music to glitch. And then evidently I broke the whole system. So you'll have that. At any rate, it's good to be here. It's a early stream from what I normally do, and it's on a day that I don't normally stream either. This weekend was packed full of more schoolwork, yay, and also some various shenanigans. We had some family photos that needed to get done per the wife, and when mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy, so you might as well just do that. And also the new job there at work is requiring a little bit more of my time. However, enough of the excuses. Let's just jump into what we're talking about today. So in the September HSS Song Contest, we had a winner in that of Michael Reynolds, who submitted a song called Gray. Everybody really liked the song. I like the song, obviously enough to choose it as the winner. And so today I'm going to show you, because he was gracious enough to allow me to do this, a mix breakdown of that song. I'm going to show you the before and the after, and then I'm going to actually go through and break down what I did to get the song from good to great. So for those of you who are in the chat, and this may be your first time here, this channel exists to simplify the complexities of the home studio and to help you make professional sounding music in a less than professional space. We can dream alone, we can create alone, and oftentimes we do, but together we can achieve so very much more. So let's talk about a little bit about this song in and of itself. We've already viewed the chart toppers. These are awesome individuals who have helped the channel to grow. And for those of you who don't know, these are individuals who have sponsored the channel through either Super Chats or their Patreon members. I'm also opening up a nice little membership here on the channel. If you didn't know that, I'm going to be releasing that soon so that you can subscribe, become a member through YouTube itself. Don't really know if it's an option for any of you that might find that useful, but we'll see. So let's jump in straight to the webcam here and the desktop. So this is the song by Michael Reynolds, Gray, and this is his version that he sent in for the song contest. Let's take a listen to that, and then I'm going to dive in and show you what I did to take this mix from a really great mix to an awesome over-the-top mix. Let's check it out.
Stepping out into the morning rain, something just isn't the same. The night is over, I think I'm sober now. The colors start to fade to gray, and the smiles all fade away. No one remembers the promises they made, and I should have never left that night. I'm coming home late again. You know you never made it easy, but can I do this on my own? Yeah, I know I can't have fun, but the night is making me let go. You know you never made it easy. You know you never made it easy. I take a look at myself and I feel like I'm someone else. Now I know why you don't know me.
Okay, so we're not going to listen to the whole song in its entirety that he mixed, because we're going to probably listen to the whole song in its entirety that I have changed in some aspects. So, but I want you to get a feel for what he submitted. The song in and of itself, the initial mix was not that bad at all. However, I did definitely see some opportunities that I had pointed out on that stream, and I'm going to point this down just a tad. There we go. Got to get Mario in the picture here. So the main thing that I want to initially say is that when it comes to mixing, when it comes to music in general, when it comes to anything musical or creative or whatever it might be, it's really just a lot of subjective decisions. And what I mean by that is what one person's gritty might be another person's distorted. One person's punch might be another person's boom. And what I mean by that even is that it's all stylistic choices. And so I'm not saying that my way is the best way. I'm just saying that this is what I would have done according to my ears, my subjective tastes, to make the song go from a really good mix to a great mix, in my opinion. So these are not hard and fast rules. These are not ways that you have to do it every single time to achieve great results. But what I am saying is at least there are some definitive things that I noticed that didn't necessarily come across the way that I felt like they could have in the song. So with all of that being said, sort of a lawyer's approach here, I guess all I'm saying is, you know, at the end of the day, whatever you're making, whether it be music, whether it be art, whether it be poetry, whether it be beats, I know seeing the legend Bon Gonzo here in the chat. Love this young man. Whatever it is, you're going to have your sort of fingerprint on that. It's going to be your own touch. And so don't necessarily take anything that I'm saying as it has to be done this way in order for you to be better. Because in all actuality, what you're doing, if it's the greatest that you're doing and yet you're still striving for more, then just keep doing what you're doing and getting better at what you're doing until you get that sound that you hear in your head. That's my pep talk today. So this was his mix. Like I said, sounded great, but I still seen some opportunities, and I want to let you listen yet again just for this first half of what he submitted.
Stepping out into the morning rain, something just isn't the same. The night.
Okay, so that's what he submitted. Now I want to show you what I've done to this. I want you to specifically listen to the feel of the song itself. I want you to hear the vocals, hone in on those. I want you to hone in on just the initial emotional response that you get from the song as soon as it's right out of the gate. Take a listen.
Stepping out into the morning rain, something just isn't the same. The night is over, I think I'm sober now. The colors start to fade to gray and the smiles all fade away. No one remembers the promises they made. And I should have never left that night. I'm coming home late again. You know you never made it easy, but can I do this on my own? Yeah, I know
Okay, so yet again, I'm not saying that my version is the way to go or the sound that you need to have, but what I am saying is, as it's already been stated here in the chat, there's a little bit different EQ choices made, and the voice, as Young, I believe that's his first time here. By the way, Young, nice to have you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have another first timer in the chat. Always good to see a first timer. So what you'll notice is, as he's already stated, the voice became, in his words, more alive. Now, to me, what I sort of envisioned in that is the voice became more upfront. Oh, we got another first timer. What is up? Actually, he was here last time. I'm still going to give him a crowd cheer. With that being said, though, the voice actually became more crisp, more clear. And what I want you to also take into account is when people are asking for the vocal to set on top of a mix, or when they're saying, I need the vocal to be more upfront, what they're essentially asking is they just need intelligibility in the words and the lyrics. They're needing intelligibility in what is being said, the message that's being conveyed. So the thing about that is that's not always easy to do when you have a densely populated mix and you got a lot of stuff going on. Well, right off the bat, he's got strings. He's got this kick drum that's just boom, boom, boom. And he's got all of this, sort of vibey stuff that's kind of coming into the mix. So it's going to be hard unless you sort of take away some principles, yet again, not hard and fast rules, but principles. And that is, everyone approaches this a little bit differently, but I don't necessarily look for a vocal to set on top of a mix. I don't look for a vocal to overpower and dominate a mix. I want it to set in the mix. I want it to be like it's a part of the mix. Now, granted, it does need to take precedence because it's the vocal. However, if you EQ things right and you choose the proper effects for the mix, it will, by nature, intrinsically, it will come out on top, but not in the sense like that it's overpowering things. So this is just the way that I like to approach it. So let's listen real quickly once again to his intro.
Stepping out into the morning rain, something just isn't the same. The night is over, I think I'm so.
Now listen to the bass drop here when it comes in.
The colors start to fade to gray and the smiles all fade away. No one.
Yet again, not bad. Not bad at all. Whenever I heard that though, I thought, man, there's so much potential there, so much real estate in the stereo field that we could be taking advantage of. And so that's exactly what I did. So I took advantage of the real estate of the stereo field, and by EQing things to where they fit together properly, I was also able to actually turn things up in the mix that were sort of muffled and buried before. I got rid of a lot of the low-end mud, which then clears up that headspace for the vocals and those higher-end instruments that you're not hearing. So now let's take a listen yet again to the point where mine comes in at the bass.
Stepping out into the morning rain, something just isn't the same. The night is over, I think I'm sober now.
Listen to the bass.
The colors start to fade to gray and the smiles all fade away. No one remembers the promises they made.
See how it's kind of carrying the song a little more? Now listen.
And I should have never left that night. I'm coming home late again. You know you never made it easy, but can I do this on my own? Yeah, I know I can't have both, but the night is making me let go. You know you never made it easy. You know you never made it easy. I take a look at myself and I feel like I'm someone else. Now I know why you don't know me anymore.
Background vocals, not overpowering.
And I should have stayed with you that night, but nothing changes in the end. You know you never made it easy, but can I do this on my own? Yeah, I know I can't have both, but the night is making me let go. You know you never made it easy. You know you never made it
Beautiful. Beautiful. I have to say, the song in and of itself, the arrangement of the song, the instrumentation choice that was picked is spot on. And it creates this emotional response that is really what got me to be like, yeah, this is the winner for me in this month. So kudos to Michael, who happens to actually be in the chat. Welcome to the chat, Michael. Good to see that you tuned in today. And Jeevan Smith, I believe, is a first-timer. Good to have you here, Jeevan. We have another first-timer. Jeevan asked the question of Fruity Loops versus Cakewalk. So Keith Lane says this needs more cowbell. So one thing that you'll notice if you hang around here very long, Jeevan, is the fact that I don't push any one particular DAW. I use Cakewalk by BandLab as my DAW of choice. However, I feel that they're all just a tool, essentially just like a hammer with a rubber grip versus a hammer with a wooden grip. They're essentially the same tool, just they have a little bit of a different aesthetic. It's the same thing with the DAW. I prefer Cakewalk because I know it well. I can navigate through it well. It's very intuitive. It has so much customization options, and it's very powerful. Now, that's not to say that it's the best DAW on the market. In fact, I would even go as far as to say now that the playing field is pretty much leveled out. There's not really, like, in my opinion, there's not really a DAW that's like the best. There are just different DAWs that do different things for different people that have different tastes. So whether you want to use Fruity Loops or whether you want to use Cakewalk, that's completely up to you. Whatever makes you work faster, better, and produce music quicker, I think would be the best choice. So back to the mix. What exactly did I do to get this from where it was, where it is now? Like I said, from where it was not hard to take it from that spot to where it is now. The only thing that I had mainly heard was there was a little bit of muddiness. There was a little bit of just not enough separation of the instrumentation and not enough real estate being used in the stereo field. And so basically, one of the first things I did is I honed in on the bass guitar as I seen, or at least heard, and yet again, this is subjective, but I felt like it was kind of going to be the driving force of the song. For one, it's got that boom, ding, 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 ding. It's got that sort of bouncy bass line that helps to sell the song as sort of this driving force. So one of the first things I did is I immediately worked on that bass guitar. And one thing that I did to the bass, Keith says never use Magix. Yeah, I can definitely agree to that one. I used that when I first started out, and whew, yeah, it's got a lot of hangups. They have better movie editing programs than they do music editing programs. I will say that, but I don't even use their movie editing programs either. So one of the first things I always do whenever I approach a bass guitar is I first listen to where does it set in the mix? What role does it play? And so as I've already stated, this one was sort of bouncy and it was a driving force. So I wanted to make sure that it was always up front and present. So what I do in that instance, what I always do is I slap a limiter on there. And so I have this limiter set to where basically it's going to essentially be just a backbone. So you're always going to hear it in the mix. It's always going to be up front and present, but yet again, not overpowering. And the way that you're able to do this is you carve out the space for it. You limit it so that it's always maintaining a pretty even volume. And then you just let it go. Just let it do what it needs to do. And so the limiter in this instance, as you can see, it's mainly just taming those points where it would try to spike out and become unruly. So by taming that and making it to where it's not spiking out, becoming unruly, I'm then able to have it set in the mix exactly where I want it and really not even have to touch it again. So then when it comes to the EQ of the bass, This is where it can get tricky because a lot of people think that you have to leave all of those bass frequencies in there. And as you've seen on my live mixing sessions and my live EQ sessions, that's not the case. So the thing that I'm doing here is I'm actually cutting out. I have a high pass filter all the way up to 65. Now people would say that's completely nuts. That's crazy. Why in the world would you do that? Because essentially I'm letting the other instruments also maintain that low end along with the bass. I want the bass to punch, and I still want the low end from the bass, but I want to also be able to see and hear a audible difference in the way that the bass is performing in that low end. And so by cutting out all that low end and then boosting right after the cut, you can see at 77, which is pretty much like a fundamental frequency, I'm boosting by 2 dBs. So I'm cutting out all the low end rumble mud stuff, but I'm boosting the fundamental frequency, which then kind of attenuates that lower end stuff, but it controls it. And then I'm boosting a ton on the highs. At 1800 kilohertz, I'm boosting 7 dBs. Now, a lot of people would say that too was like way out there, but that allows me to get that pluck sound and the drive from the bass. I'm cutting at 147, which takes care of the boomy, muffle honkiness of the bass. And then I'm also boosting at another 800 kilohertz just to bring out the character of the bass. So if I was to take this off, you can see what it sounds like. Now, if you have a set of headphones on, you could hear that. Now, when I enabled and disabled that EQ, if you had a set of headphones on, you should have been able to hear that it just went from kind of boomy, bassy, muffly to still maintained the bass, but cleaned it up and gave it character and gave it a little bit of high-end sheen, believe it or not. Keith is wondering if I could show the waveform of how it's changed next to the original. Unfortunately, I can't because I would have to fly in the multi-tracks from what he gave me before. But essentially, if I had to sort of just predict what kind of happened, essentially what would happen is, let me see if I can bring this in here. This area here that's very dynamic, essentially all of these waveforms would have been kind of like this, just straight across the board, which is what I'm trying to really achieve whenever I do this with the limiter. So, and then I have a secondary EQ that I've placed on there, and this is the L phase EQ, and I'm essentially doing a lot of the same things. I'm boosting again up in this 17 kilohertz region, adding more high end, removing the 300 kilohertz. This is that honky area. And then I'm using some surgical cuts just for areas where I felt like it was kind of needed to be notched out. You'll notice at 64 kilohertz, I've notched it out considerably at 5 dBs. That's to allow that kick to come through without having to do any kind of crazy sidechain stuff. And then lastly, I actually did add the sidechain stuff. So this compressor that I've got placed on here, the only purpose of this compressor is for it to be operating when the kick comes in. So right now you're going to see the compressors not being utilized at all. However, if I bring these drums in, you can see that it's turning it down right as soon as that kick comes in. Okay, so that's what I did on the bass to get it to really come in there and make it a little more interesting. Now, when it comes to the drums, these are the drums that he had sent me. The only real thing that I remember doing differently with these drums is I just added a secondary kick to give it a little bit more beef. And that was this kick right here. So this is sort of how the original drum sounded. Just doesn't sound bad. And here's the secondary kick that I added. it almost sounds kind of like a snare would sound. But what I did is I tried to add a little bit more of a flam to the kick, just to give it a little bit more character. And also there's some low end information in this kick that's not in the previous one. So it helps the kick to poke through a little bit better. Now on the drums themselves, as you can see, I've got no plugins on the drum tracks. Rather, what I did is I just routed them all to a drum bus. And then I'm able to manipulate the entire drums from the bus. And on the bus, all I have is reverb and some parallel compression for the drums themselves, which is here. So if I solo the drums, this is without the parallel compression. Now I'll bring the parallel compression in. Just adds more punch. Okay, so that's sort of the long and short of what I did on the drums. Not a lot of processing being done on them. I just simply wanted them to just set in the mix a little bit better. So Keith says, can you just drag up the master and switch on waveform preview? Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Okay, so here's the master. Turn on waveform preview, and I'll show you the before and after. It'll have to be of the whole mix, I'm assuming, is what you're... Oh yeah, it won't let me do that because I'm going through here, so I need to go through here. Were you just talking about the bass? Okay, I see what you're saying. So let me take the effects rack out of the equation. So this was the previous bass before the effects were added, and after. So as you can see, it still retains some of the dynamics, but it's a lot more streamlined. That way you're able to actually see, for one, it did get louder, obviously. It's got a stinking limiter on it, but the other thing that you've seen is, as opposed to the original here, where you have sort of a very high and low peaks and valleys here, it's just a little bit more evened out across the board. Like this area right here is a lot thicker. So that gives you that, as you can see it here when I zoom out, that gives you that upfront, that present sound to it. A limiter is essentially the same as using a compressor, except for the difference is the limiter is like an always on compressor, whereas a compressor is just only hitting at certain points that you set it the threshold to. The limiter is just kind of always on, always limiting things. And what it's doing is essentially it's doing the same thing as a compressor is doing, but it's doing it in a different way, if that makes any sense. Michael R says, which by the way, great song you got here. He says, is the CA2A worth it? I've been contemplating getting it for some time. I personally love it. I use it on every single mix. Now I got this one through Cakewalk before they were bought out by BandLab, and so it's not available if you download Cakewalk by BandLab now. But they're trying to reintroduce some of those legacy plugins. Hopefully it'll be available in the near future. But with that being said, I had to make sure I turned off the old golf faucet here. But with that being said, honestly, I would, if you can afford it and you can get it, I would definitely get it. I love it. So now on the next thing I wanted to bring out here is I noticed that on his version, the acoustic guitar, it was heard, but it wasn't like, I didn't feel like it was sort of playing the role that it needed to play. I seen it as more of a rhythmic, sort of a percussive instrument in this song. And it also adds a lot of just an extra layer of emotion to it. And acoustic guitar, anytime you hear it in a song, it almost brings you back to your roots. And so I wanted to get it to be more upfront, more present. I wanted that percussive element to come out. And so that's exactly what I did. Yet again, I used the CA2A on this to do just that. So I wouldn't have to be riding the fader, doing a bunch of crazy automation, just simply slap the 2A on there and let it do its job. So this is what it sounded like before. Which sounds nice, but it just wasn't filling out in the mix the way that I felt like it needed to. And so with the CA2A, a little bit of drummer compression on there. I love the drummer S73. If you guys have not checked out this by Softtube, another great plugin. You can literally just go through these presets and find a great setting and then just dial it in however you'd like. I used the Clarity 2 preset, and I also used the Air, which is like a high-end sheen lift. And then, of course, Gullfoss. Gotta love Gullfoss. On acoustic guitars, Gullfoss just makes an acoustic guitar just come to life, literally. So I will put these on one at a time. So let's listen to, I'll bring in the CA2A, and then I'll bring in the drummer, and then I'll bring in the Gullfoss, and you'll kind of see how it all just kind of came together. Let me zoom in here. Oops. Wrong one. I think it was number 4 is what I'm looking for. Yeah, it was number 4. There we go. So I'm going to kind of zoom in here, and we're going to enable these as it's playing. That's the percussive elements I'm talking about that I wanted to really pull out of there. Now, what you noticed is when I put the CA2A on, all of that low end information started to rise up now. And the reason being is because it's a limiter. So everything that was quiet is now going to be louder. Everything that was louder is now going to be quieter. So it's literally just taking the dynamic range and just kind of squeezing everything together a little bit more. So with the drummer, I was able to use the Clarity preset and take that low end mud out, as you can hear here. Very subtle, but it cleaned it up considerably. Now when I put the Gullfoss on, you're going to really hear that guitar come alive. It just sounds more natural. It's not overdone, just natural sounding. Now granted, a lot of this has to do with my EQ decisions on this as well. So let's take a look at the EQ. This is the Pro channel. Now the EQ that's on this, as you can see, I've cut out everything below 139 Hertz. So all that low end information is gone. I didn't need it. I was using low end information from keys and from bass and even from the vocal to fill in that low end space. And so, like I said, the acoustic guitar, the main decision behind me doing this was I just wanted it to have a percussive element, to be a little bit upfront, more personal. And it only comes in at certain times in the mix. So it's not like a star roll in the mix itself. So I cut out a lot of the low end. I cut around 200 Hertz. Looks like I did another cut at 359. Those two areas are kind of like every acoustic guitar is going to need cut in those areas, it seems like. And that's just taking care of the woody, the boxiness of an acoustic guitar that intrinsically is just built into the recording of it. And then I also boosted around 1800 kilohertz on this one as well by about 4 dBs. And so you get this nice little good acoustic sound here. So then likewise, I put some reverb on there, short room and a long haul. If I was to take these off, you could kind of hear the difference that's being made. It's not over the top yet again either. But it's one of those things that it definitely does make a difference once it comes in. So, all right. So the next thing I wanted to work on was this little lead line that comes in here. I loved the way that it just kind of came in at just the right time. It did what it needed to do, and then it left. I love that. That's just some good arrangement right there. But the one thing that I didn't like was the fact that I wasn't sold on the sound of it completely. So take a listen. Oh, sorry, I got the drums soloed out down here or something. What's going on? There we go. Okay, so whenever I first heard this, it was very dry. And, you know, maybe that's a stylistic choice that he was going for, but it sounded kind of like this. Which isn't necessarily bad, but as a guitarist, I was hearing a little bit more depth and clarity added to that. So I put a CA2A on it. I told you guys I use that on every mix, which basically just one of the main reasons, I'll just be upfront and honest, okay? One of the main reasons I use a CA2A is because it's very transparent. It does exactly what it's supposed to, and I don't have to do a ton of automation. Automation can take a lot of time, and if I had to automate all these little things, it would be mind-numbing. So by slapping the CA2A on there, I get it right to the level that I want. I can back it off just a little bit and it stays right where I want it. I don't have to automate it. But what I was hearing was this delay on there. So check it out when I add the reverb and the delay. Just adds a lot more depth to it. Just makes it sound a little more like it was recorded in a space other than it just being like a dry, this is, like I said, how it started. Versus I think it just made it come alive. All right. And then the other thing that I wanted to point out was the backing vocals. So with the backing vocals, I treated these a little bit differently. And each one of them has, imagine that, a CA2A. Because I'm a lazy, I guess. I just don't want to automate anything. But then each one of them also has an instance of Little Altar Boy. I love this. Absolutely love this plugin. Huge Sound Toys fan. And then, so on this one here, you have Rich Fifths, which is just a stock setting that comes with Little Altar Boy. And on the next one, you have a high octave double. Now we're going to listen to these by themselves and just to kind of give you a feel for what they're doing.
On my own,
This is with the fifths.
can't have both.
Okay. And then this is the high octave double.
On my own, can't have both.
Okay. And then you put them together. You pan that left and right and you get.
On my own, can't have both.
Very cool. Love the sound of that. And then, of course, when you add that in there with the lead vocal.
This on my own. Yeah, I know I can't have both. this song.
Very good voice, by the way. I love his voice. It just matches the music so well. So, on the lead vocal, there were some things that I had to do a little bit differently on the lead vocal that I don't normally do, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. So you're going to see some areas here where it looks as if it was clipping. And when I received the tracks, it was in fact clipping. There were some areas where it wasn't all the time. It might have been the mic. It might have been the fact that the interface was up just a little too loud. But you'll notice that there's certain points where you can see some digital clipping going on. And so I had to fix that. And I used Isotope RX5 declip, and it took care of it like immediately. So this is it whenever I take it off.
You know you never made it easy, but can I do this on my own?
You could hear it right there really good where you, on my own, when it like distorted a little bit. On my, listen.
You know you never made it easy, but can I do this on my own?
It's not bad,
Yeah,
but
I know I can't
right
have
there.
both, but the night is making me let go. You know you never made it easy. Oh, you know you never made it easy.
So it's not bad. There's just some parts where it just kind of went over that threshold enough for me to hear it and go, ooh, hope I can fix that. Certainly can. Isotope RX5.
You know you never made it easy, but can I do this on my own?
Can't even hear it now.
Yeah, I know I can't have both,
It just smoothed
but
it
the
out.
night is making me let go.
Awesome. And thank you, Michael, for letting me do this. I know it's always sort of like pulling back the cover and almost like you're having one of those dreams where you're standing naked in your school and everybody's watching you. But especially when you're soloing lead vocals. But the thing to that is, by you allowing me to do this, you're helping me to help others. So I greatly appreciate that, Michael. And these vocals sound amazing, in my opinion. I love, like I said, I love the style. Another thing that kind of made this leap out at me. So with the lead vocal, what I did in this instance was one of my favorite, the VX64 vocal strip. Yet again, this was something that was included with the previous versions of Cakewalk by BandLab back when it was Sonar Platinum. So I was able to snatch this up by purchasing that. And I'm hoping this is another one. Actually, I think this one is available. You just have to go into your excluded plugins. So if you use your plugin manager, I believe if you go into the excluded plugins, you can find this there. If you don't have access to it, check your excluded plugins. Hopefully it'll show up, because this is like one of the most amazing. It's like a whole chain that you can just fly in, and it just does exactly what it's supposed to do. It's just awesome. So it has different sections here. The first section is a de-esser, and then it has a companion section. And by the way, if you don't know what I'm talking about with the excluded, it's right here. So if you go to the Cakewalk plugin manager, which is found up here in utilities, and you open that up, you should see down here at the bottom, show excluded. And then that shows you which plugins have been excluded. And then you can go in there, like see, for instance, the PX64 percussion strip. Here's the vocal strip right here, which it's showing up in my excluded and my included, because I have multiple versions installed here on my, I still have Sonar Platinum somehow floating around in here, which is why I have access to these plugins, some of these plugins anyway, that you don't have access to, if you're wondering. But anyway, it's got a de-esser section, a compander section, which is a compression and expander. The expander basically just turns down the quiet parts whenever you're not singing, which takes care of background noise and stuff like that. It's got a tube equalizer section. And what's cool is the doubler section, the delay section, all of these can be routed differently. So if I want the de-esser to be the last thing in the chain, I can just simply click and drag it down here to the last thing in the chain. And then it has the ability to have saturation in and out, which I typically will always use on a vocal just because it makes it become more upfront, present, and all of the fundamental frequencies, it really makes them more upfront. The next thing I did was some EQ. As you can see, I'm cutting out a ton of low end, just doing some notch filtering on some problem areas, nasally areas, some low end rumble areas, the CA2A, imagine that, doing some limiting again, and then that RX. And then I slapped on a short room reverb, medium plate reverb, and 2 long holes panned left and right. And that's what gives that sort of bubble around the lead vocal. So Sony has a question. He says, I still cannot understand why in the world did Cakewalk exclude such a great plugin? I couldn't find it until I saw a video of Mike from Creative Sauce. So they're considered excluded because when BandLab bought out Cakewalk, several of those plugins were from third-party individuals who had contracts with the original owners, which was Gibson. And so when they bought it out, those contracts were kind of going away. However, the reason why they're in the excluded is because they're still included, but they don't have support for them, if that makes sense. So now they're trying to get those contracts renewed so that hopefully they can not only allow for those plugins to be right up front whenever you get it, but they'll also have support for those plugins. Now, I have personally not had any problem with any of those excluded plugins. So, and hopefully, knock on wood, that nothing happens with those. But that's why some of them are in there. So shout out to Mike on Creative Sauce. So this has just been sort of a rough, real quick, excuse me, breakdown on this mix. One thing that I usually fail to show that I want to show you guys is the master bus, because this also does a lot for the sound. Let me pull up actually, I'm just going to show you the console view here. That'd be easier. So if you pull up the console view here is the bus channel. And for the delay, which if you were wondering, the delay I used was actually the Lagrange. This is a plugin that I just gave a shout out for as far as being a free plugin on the podcast. On the podcast, if you've not listened to it before, I always will shout out about 3 free plugins that you can start implementing for free, download, use them, and I usually give some kind of a sound example for them as well. This is one that I stumbled across and I was like, man, this thing is amazing. It's got so much versatility. It's just got a lot of coolness built into it. So on the master bus, I literally have just a tad bit of EQ going on, and I'm currently looking at this reference 2 plugin. This has not been released as of yet from Mastering the Mix. They're allowing me to sort of do a trial run on this before they release it to see what it's like. I have to say it's very cool. You can fly in reference tracks here and listen to reference tracks in your mix, and it will automatically gain stage and match them. So he says, what are those free plugins? Please tell me. So Lagrange, this is one of those free plugins that I'm using here. Trying to find another free plugin that I've got slapped in here somewhere. Now, several of these plugins I've gotten for free simply because of being a longtime Cakewalk user. Some of them I got, such as the Golfos. I did a review on it, and they graciously ended up giving me a full license to the plugin. But then in the podcast, you'll find every single time I release a podcast, I have 3 free plugins. Then if you go to the show notes, either here on YouTube or on iTunes or whatever, wherever you play your, in the show notes, wherever you play your podcast, I'm going to have links to those free plugins. So yeah, this has just been a brief encapsulation of what I did to get this mix from where he had it to where I took it to. And then the last thing that I did was I used the T-Rex 5 Master Match. I threw in 3 different references here. I had Master Match learn those references and the EQ plots of those. And then I matched this particular mix to that. And what I ended up with was a mastered version of this track. So we'll go ahead and listen to the mastered version now, and then we'll close this up with a little bit more Q&A. So let's take a listen.
Stepping out into the morning rain, something just isn't the same. The night is over, I think I'm sober now. The colors start to fade to gray, and the smiles all fade away. No one remembers the promises they made, and I should have never left that night. I'm coming home late again. You know you never made it easy, but can I do this on my own? Yeah, I know I can't have both, but the night is making me let go. You know you never made it easy. Oh. You know you never made it easy. I take a look at myself and I feel like I'm someone else. Now I know why you don't know me anymore. And I should have stayed with you that night, but nothing changes in the end. You know you never made it easy, but can I do this on my own? Yeah, I know I can't have both, but the night is making me let go. You know you never made it easy. Oh. You know you never made it easy. I keep on falling, I keep on stalling, trying to get to you. Just need another night up on the roof, me and the moon. You know you never made it easy, but can I do this on my own? Yeah, I know I can't have both, but the night is making me let go. You know you never made it easy, but I can do this on my own. Where I'll end up is unknown, but the night is telling me to go. Yeah, the night is telling me to go, and the night is making me let go.
Awesome song. All right, guys. So I'm going to open this up now for a little bit of extra Q&A. If you guys have any questions that you'd like to ask, go ahead and ask them now, and I will do my very best to answer those. If you have any questions about this mix, about Cakewalk in general, or just anything for that matter, let me know, and I can maybe even showcase some of that here on screen if it's like a specific question that I need to answer. I will show you, however, while we're getting some questions ready, I will show you, as promised, I told you I was going to try to work on a song myself for the next song challenge, which is the November edition, where we are into the November HSS Song Contest now. There's a link in the description where if you want to submit a song for that, you can do that. So this is the song in its current state that I'm working on now for my addition to it. Okay, so Keith's question is, on the vocal original, there's a slight ring to that recording. Is that the room resonance causing it? I do believe so. If I went back and listened to it, it wasn't like it wasn't too much, but it was definitely there. Which a lot of that can be cured just by simply moving the microphone to the middle of the room. If it's a smaller room, if it's a large room, you can pretty much get by with recording pretty much anywhere. And then also taking mind of where the capsule is located. So for instance, if I wanted to cut down on a lot of the room reverberations in a smaller room, I could actually do some good by placing that microphone either directly in the middle of the room, or if I don't have that option, I could place the microphone in the corner and then face the diaphragm out so that there's nothing getting into the back of the microphone that would cause that weird resonance, and everything behind it is a far enough distance away to where it's not going to be causing a lot of that. And then maybe right on the walls, right next to it, I could hang some sheets or even sing into a closet if I needed to. Okay, so here is just a real quick, sort of quick and dirty of where it's at right now. It's definitely not at a finished point, but this is the song that I'm working on for my rendition, the HSS Song Contest for the November. I don't always get to submit a song myself, so I thought, I'm going to go ahead and do that.
He's got a golden guitar and $1 million sound. Everywhere that he goes, he's selling out shows, bringing people from all around. And he's got money, and that money's made him proud. He's had so much for so long, forgot what the blues is all about. But the crossroads are calling, time to pay your dues.
All right, so there's a quick little sneak peek at the song that I'll be submitting. I've actually had some help on this song, which I love. I love collaborating. If you're new to the channel, one of the things that we try to inspire and create around here is collaboration amongst fellow members. So the electric guitars and the acoustic guitars are mine. The lead vocal, obviously, is mine. The bass guitar is Brian Barton's. He is the individual who helped on the song Found by Kayla Patrick that we all mixed together here on the channel. And he also helped on this song, as well as, I believe there's another song that he helped on. But then the drums is Chris Knowles. He's also a regular around here. And Marcel Walden is helping with the keys, the organs on this. So I'm going to hopefully have all of this come together in some good timing to where I can get this ready for release on the actual live stream wherever we go through everybody's songs together. And obviously I'm not going to choose myself as a winner. So Keith wants to add a 20-minute kazoo solo in it. I could see how that might fit. Definitely. I have to say I'm happy with the way the acoustic guitar came out, the sound of the acoustic. I used the Tech Zone Audio microphone that I just recently reviewed here on the channel to get these sounds, and I love the sound of that microphone. Take a listen to this. Just sounds like an acoustic guitar should sound. Love it. And that is in DADGAD tuning, I believe. These electric guitars, this sound actually came straight out of the Boss ME80 into the computer. I couldn't believe how good those sounded just coming straight out of that multi-effects pedal. I was like, wow. So that's no amping, even though it sounds like an amp. Crazy. All right. So that's sort of a quick sneak peek on a song that I'm working on here for the channel for the next HSS Song Contest. That's the November edition. Yet again, if you want to include your song in that, hop on to the link in the description and you can do that. Let's go ahead and jump to the Wheel of Awesomeness because we've not done that this episode as of yet. For those of you who don't know, let me bring on Casey Kasem. He's going to introduce the Wheel of Awesomeness. Casey?
Ladies and gentlemen, that's right, the Wheel of Awesomeness. We're going to spin the wheel and see what happens.
And I guess I probably should have been more ready for that, Casey, because I didn't even have it pulled up for me to actually be able to spin it. So you're just going to see the wheel sitting there for a minute. How's that for you? So for those of you that are new, basically this is sort of a breakup of the monotony of the channel. It's also just a fun way for us to all act like goofballs and have some fun. So we're going to spin the Wheel of Awesomeness. What exactly is the Wheel of Awesomeness? Well, it's pretty much exactly what it says it is. We spin this wheel, whatever it lands on dictates whatever we do. So let's go ahead and spin it now. I think it's spinning. Yes, there it goes. Trivia. Ooh, we haven't done some trivia in a long time. So while I'm getting the trivia question, let's give a quick shout out to these individuals. These are those who have either subscribed or they have, okay. Yeah, these are just subscribers as of now. Normally this will show up as, we'll have some super chatters as well, but I don't see any super chatters on here right now. So I'm going to do some quick Googling as he's I have to Google music trivia because that's just how it is. All right, so let's see here. Okay, this could be cool. What band started off as the Polka Talk Blues Band? This is kind of crazy here. What band started off as the Polka Talk Blues Band? This is kind of crazy. The answer to this is really crazy, actually. All right, so I'm posting it in the chat. Green Day. Ooh, Michael R says Green Day. All right, so Green Day is not the answer. This is actually going to throw you off because it's not one that you would think. Okay, so Keith says the Stones. Michael is being very transparent. He says, I have no idea. He did guess Green Day, though. All right. So for the band that was formerly known as the Polka Talk Blues Band, that doesn't have quite as good of a ring to it. I'm gonna allow maybe a couple more guesses to come in if anybody else is currently in the chat. Okay, I'm posting the answer into the chat even now. That's right. Black Sabbath, believe it or not, was first known as the Polka Talk Blues Band. I know. That's mind blown. Didn't know that one. That's the cool thing about music trivia. You find out stuff you never would have known, never would have even thought. So, wow. Yeah, I'm glad they changed that one. Well, guys, thank you for hopping on the live stream today. Thank you so much for just being awesome. You guys typically always show up and show out. You have an awesome attitudes, and everybody is always so very helpful. Thank you, Michael, for submitting the song that won the September edition. We're going to be mixing and showing the mix of what it took to get that mix to its entirety, also for the October edition. And if I remember correctly, I believe it was Mark George that won that one. So, yeah, that's a good question, Keith. Michael, are you happy with the way that the mix that I gave you sounded? Is there anything that you would change about it? Yet again, it's all stylistic, so if it's like, that's completely fine. If it's not your cup of tea, but that's just what I put my own stamp on it. That's just what I was hearing. So yeah. I know there's a little bit of hesitation between the stream and what I'm saying, so that's fine. At any rate, thank you, each and every one of you, for showing up. You guys are awesome. For those of you who will watch this in the replay, thank you all so much as well for watching this in the replay. Make sure that you share this channel with other individuals. Share the videos that are on this channel. I have a ton of useful tips, tricks, tutorials. I have gear reviews. I have reviews of plugins and whatever you can think of. The main thing is to share this not for the sake of me building an empire, but for the sake of helping people. That's what I really love to do. That's my lot in life. If I could say that there is anything that I feel like I have a calling on my life to do, it would be to help people, whether that's to help them emotionally, whether that's to help them with their music, spiritually speaking, whatever it might be. I love to help people. And so share this channel with individuals that you feel like might need the help or would be welcome to the help or could actually help others on this channel as well. So thank you all so much. You guys are awesome as usual, and stay safe out there. I know this whole Corona thing is not being, it's not being nice to anybody. However, I feel like now that the election process is coming to a close, that the Corona thing is going to magically disappear. So hopefully, we're going to see some end to this. I love each and every one of you. I appreciate each and every one of you, and just keep it real, keep it going, and stay creative.